In this section, we're gonna be wrapping panels. So a lot of people want to do tongue and groove everywhere. I can tell you for the walls, I think the best way to go about it is just wrap your panels. It's not very hard and it looks really, really clean. TNG on the walls will always squeak, it always gets messed up, and it just eventually will start looking really bad. So I like to wrap these panels. For the most part, you can clean them off. They don't hold a bunch of smells. They're pretty robust. And how we build these things, we use 1/4-inch Baltic birch or 6mm Baltic birch, and we'll use an 1/8-inch Lando foam. You can order this stuff, like we'll put links in this course for where to find some of these things. And then we use burn fabric or fusion. It is like a polyester-based tweed, and it's very resilient, it is tough, and it hides seams and edges really, really well. So once all your panels are up, it just gives you such a clean looking build. And if you do this right, it's gonna look very, very pro. One thing to keep an eye out for is a lot of the cloths that we work with, they are, you know, grain dependent. So what I mean by that is if this panel sits lengthways like this, you don't want to get the next one that's similar to be sideways to save a little bit of the foam, because say on this one you have this turquoise line running all the way down and then a brown line running this way. If you flip them 90 degrees, you will be able to tell. It'll be like there's almost two different cloths inside the van. I know it's tempting to try and save as much as you can. Set this stuff up, line your things out, and do the best you can, but we'll put in how much we typically use for a 170 and a 144. So when you buy, buy this fabric, you know how many yards to get and what it's gonna cost you. So there will be some waste, and don't try to cut corners by, fitting weird things in and, getting weird dimensions and weird colors hitting this fabric, because it will be very noticeable. It can be confusing when you're wrapping your panels, like what panel is what is the face, what is the back. So we put this guy in one, make sure your panel fits, and then what we'll do is we'll just write, just so I know, like this is the side that I am going to wrap. I know it sounds silly, but it happens. You just wrap the wrong side, and once you wrap it in this Lando foam and you get that on top of it, it is a pain to scrape all the stuff off, and a lot of the times you won't be able to use the fabric again. So this is our wrap side. We're gonna go through. Kind of set this guy up, and then I'll just trace it out. So that way I just have a good idea of where to spray the glue. Now we have just our basic trace. It's, this part isn't too crazy. We like to use this foam because it gives the wall a nice soft feel. It's not absolutely necessary that you do this step. You can glue the fabric directly to your wood, whatever wall that you're gonna be using, but I think it makes it a lot nicer when you glue the Lando on top of the plywood first. Just remember and be conscious of the kind of adhesives and stains you're using within your van. So the Foam Fast 74, it's by 3M. It's a low VOC. So you put the thing on there, and once it's dry, it has no smell. You want to use a decent amount of this stuff. It's not like, don't get too stingy with it. You want a nice coating. So I'll go through and I'll show you guys how much glue we typically use. And then also let it sit for a little bit as well, so it gets tacky. If you install it while it's wet, it'll probably peel right back off. So let it get really tacky, let it breathe for a little bit, and then everything will stick really, really well. So you can get this stuff in little aerosol cans, a medium tank, or you can get crazy and get one of these big guys. But Foam Fast 74, the cans will work just fine, and then we'll throw in, you just get like a case of those, and that's more than enough to do an entire van. Just start with a nice fan. And don't be too stingy with it. You wanna make sure this stuff sticks all really, really well. So we're gonna let this sit for about 3 to 5 minutes and it'll start to tack up, and then we'll put our panel on. I like to glue the foam and the wall itself. Seems like a little bit overkill, but nothing sucks more than your wall starting to peel off after you've done everything. Once your walls start to peel, you're looking at taking galleys out, electrical systems out, beds out, upper cabinets out. It's a lot of work. Extra glue, you know, you don't need to use a ton on the wall. And this stuff will stick. And you're gonna wanna do the same thing with the fabric against the foam as well. So we'll let that sit for just a minute and we'll slap everything together. Now the glue has had time to set up. It's feeling tacky. Again, like you just give it like a little, like perfect. If it's wet and it's just kind of like slimy still, it needs to get a little bit more air. So I traced this guy out. I glued the wrap side. I glued that side. And now I lined up my little trace marks right there. So now I can just stand this guy up, make sure I'm all lined up. And it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, but it does need to be perfectly flat. So at that point, get it close, just drop it in. Go through, give it a press everywhere. And then that's it. Should be adhered, shouldn't have any problems with this. Now we're gonna wanna take just a little razor blade. You can get a little shop knife, a box cutter, whatever. We just use just a plain old knife. So that way you can get in through some of these corners and then just trace this out. Now everyone's building a van, you probably have some extra cardboard around. Use the cardboard for stuff like putting down on the ground to glue on top of, because the stuff gets on concrete and it really wrecks everything. So, and it's easier to cut when you have a piece of cardboard underneath it. So let's go on through, cut these things. And there you have it. One thing to keep in mind with this foam as well is try not to slap it or hit it, because it will dent. So just make sure you get all your air bubbles out. And now this panel is ready to go. Now you can set up your cloth. And again, use your razor to trim off the excess. We don't wanna wrap this stuff around, because if you did make these panels just fit, you need to give it a little bit of room. So the cloth, you can wrap the cloth around, so don't make these wall panels too tight. This thing is out of the way, it's done. We're gonna set up our cloth and get this stuff out of the way.